Welcome to Assault, Learn and Play, Part 7.2, Chapter 10, Ranged Fire 2, Resolving Combat. So, let us start with resolving combat ranged fire. And therefore we have to talk a little bit about the six-sided battle dice which are used to determine battle results and other game effects. So in Assault system we have 4 different colors of battle dice, and it is a descending order of strengths. So red is the strongest, then yellow, then green, then blue. And you see it on the table, the die color, and of course 6-sided, 1 to 6, and you see of course here the strengths of the dice. And important for you is to know the success symbols. So you have a critical hit, you have a damage point, and you have suppression. And each of these symbols triggers effects. We come to that later. When you try to do ranged fire, you should of course know something about attack and defense dice. You see here the example of the Tiger E on the unit card, and you see of course every shield symbol simulates defense dice depending on the direction of the attack. And then you have of course the attack dice, we heard it in the former parts, rolled against armored vehicles or rolled against infantry, artillery and unarmored vehicles. So the unit card helps you to identify which attack and defense die you basically have. So the colored squares on the unit card represent the different dice used in attack and defense rolls. Each colored square represents the die of the matching color. So a red square represents the red die. So these symbols are complete to all documentation here. If you see a square colored, it's a die. Players should match each of the colored squares to the dice of the same color. Inherent defense dice allocated to a unit are shown on the unit card with a shield in the background. And they are used when the unit is defending itself against an attack. Other defense dice from terrain, etc. may be available to the unit. The number of types of attack dice are shown on the unit card and are divided rows into those rolled against vehicles and rolled against infantry artillery, except unarmored vehicles. 2 symbols on the same die roll is called a double success. This is an important term when resolving combat. Sometimes die rolls will modify it so that only one of the symbol is counting. And therefore, if you roll your dice, of course, you should know your symbol and the effect. And in the Assault system, you have always an attack roll and always a defense roll. So these both rolls get compared, comparing dice rolls. All types of combat, direct fire, indirect fire, close combat, work on very simple rules that each result rolled by the defender cancelled out the same result or weaker rolled by the attacker. So critical hit can cancel out a critical hit, damage point or a suppression. A damage point can cancel out a damage point or a suppression. A suppression cancels out another suppression. So both the attacking and defending players' dice rolls are compared to each other. The defending player cancels out as many of the attacking player's symbols as the defending dice shows. Any symbols not cancelled by the defender's dice roll are assigned as damage. This damage may be a physical loss or the unit or a loss of morale. So after each comparison roll you have to assign your damage, like your result of the rolls. First of all, you have critical hits, they cause 1 damage, and they can trigger a special effect, C1074. Then you have damage points to the unit. You can have suppression, which ends in suppressed units, or then fall back if they are already marked with suppressed. Be careful, artillery is eliminated if they ever have to do a fallback, and also immobilized vehicles. If you play with the optional command points, you will lose the command points if you have an eliminated unit, but not below 4 command points. This is your lower limit. Important is if you lose a truck unit, this does not result in a loss of a command point. So before we start with examples, let us talk about critical hits. They are special if after a comparison of dice critical hit stays, you have to roll separate a green die for the attacker for each critical hit and a blue die, of course, for each critical hit for the defender. And it's described in 10.7.5 versus infantry and artillery units, and of course versus vehicles 10.7.6. And you see in the rules, of course, that if you do this can add special effects, like units can gain a fallback or can be eliminated because they are already suppressed, like artillery, can gain, of course, immobilized, like vehicles. So you have special effects can be triggered by critical hits as a result. Also, it's possible if you play with the blast value of units 10.7.7, you can, of course, have an impact on buildings. If you are attacking units which are in buildings and you have as a result a critical hit, it could be end in damage or destroy of that building. So how to start now again a ranged fire attack. The attack dice, of course, to be rolled, and the strengths can be modified by a number of different factors. These include the attacking unit status, special abilities, attributes listed on the unit cards, and experience levels. The effects are always cumulative. So modifications can also occur as a result of playing command cards. See individual command cards for details. The following modifications can occur. Attacking unit status. If the attacker loses the weakest attack dice when they have this marker. Units at half strength treat any double success rolls as single success rolls. On a double success, the strongest result is used. Critical, normal, suppressed. Special abilities, attributes on the unit card. Take a look at the unit card for applying modifications for attributes and special abilities to the attack dice. Experience levels. All veterans and elite units gain a blue attack die. Joint fire. This is a mode, a rule. You can do joint fire and gain attack die. I will explain this in a separate part. These are the possible modifications to your attack dice, and we made a game aid for ranged fire, which is like a checklist. So you can move all the points down to do not forget any modifier you can have for your attack roll. So the left side of the ranged fire aid, modifications to attack dice, will help you out to do not forget anything to provide the right attack dice. So if you go through how to process this ranged fire attack, just you have to go from up to down and check all the boxes to do not forget anything. Joint fire. For this purpose, the unit is designated to lead the fire. Up to one adjacent non-activated friendly unit may open fire on the same target at the same time. The adjacent non-activated unit is referred to as the Fire Support Unit FSU. All participating unit, lead unit and FSU must be activated and marked with firing. This is a free action, no command point is required for the Fire Support Unit. The player may use all attack dice of the leading unit and additional the strongest attack die for the adjacent Fire Support Unit. If an FSU is already reduced to half strength, only the stronger symbols apply to any dice result with a double success. If a FSU is marked with a -1 dice, the next weakest die color is used instead of the strongest die. If the weakest die is already blue, it is used. If the FSU has a hindered line of sight to the target, the next weakest die color is used instead of the strongest die. If the weakest die is already blue, if it's used. I will perform an example for joint fire later on. So to provide you as a player most effective approach to find out what attack dice and modifications you have for your ranged fire attack, we provided a game aid for the ranged fire, on which we have mentioned all the steps you have to go through to come to your attack dice. And you see here the ranged fire aid. and you have on the left side the modifications to attack dice. And if you follow this procedure, you will get always the right attack dice for your attack roll. So just follow the procedure from up to down. First you have to identify your target type and the range factor. So then you know what range factor you have to use on the unit card and what basic attack dice versus the unit do you have. Then you have, of course, make your line of sight check if it's clear, hindered or blocked. If it's blocked, you cannot do ranged fire. So using the line of sight modification column on the player's aid on the terrain chart. Then you can check for a possible joint fire action. Therefore you can activate an adjacent unactivated unit as a fire support unit and gain 1 additional attack die. The rule is described in the rulebook. Then you have to mark your unit for the ranged fire action. So if it's a firing action, it's a move and fire move action, turret fire, or if it's a FSU with a joint fire action, then it is also marked with a firing marker. If necessary, you have to perform a spotting roll. So for this, check also the abilities of the attacker defender unit card and apply hide action, hidden, ambush, status markers, modifiers. So do not forget them. Then you have to check the arc of fire of your firing unit and of course the range. Grab the attack dice depending on the range which are stated on your unit cards. To modify your attack dice, check your unit experience level. If you are a veteran or elite, you gain an additional blue attack die. And check, of course, the defender's experience. If they are recruit level, then you have an automatic suppression result. You can keep it beside and for the comparison of the dice rolls. Then attack. Check your unit's status regarding attack die -1 marker or a hidden, because then you will lose 1 attack die. And of course, if you're an ambush, marked with an ambush, then you get also 1 automatic suppression symbol. Check again your card for abilities attributes, and then if you are in half strength and you made your dice roll, then you have of course less success. So you have only single success which are counting, and the strongest symbol is always counting, starting with critical hit, damage and suppression. And last but not least, you can have command cards on your hand. You have to check which can give you probably a possible effect for your attack roll. And if you follow this procedure from up to down, you will take care that you won't forget some effect on your attack dice. We will do this later on in the simulator, and I can show you how this works with some examples. But first, before we go to the examples in the simulator, we have to talk about defense dice. Because attacker is rolling, defender is rolling, then the dice comparison takes place. And therefore it's important to know the rules about defense dice in ranged fire. So defense dice can also be modified by a large number of different factors. These include terrain defense costs, bonus, hindered loss, area of impact, attacker's fire status, defender status, special abilities and experience levels. And also command cards if you play with these. So first important thing is of course the terrain defense dice. The defender should check the terrain chart on the player's aid. The terrain defense bonus is stated in the terrain defense bonus column. Add this dice to your defense roll. For example, infantry in heavy forest would gain a 1 green die and 2 yellow dice. Hindered loss to target. So of course a hindered loss will give the defender an advantage. So defender should check the terrain chart on the player's aid. Any bonus dice for the defender because of a hindered loss is stated in the line of sight modification column. Keep in mind, defense bonus dice for loss hindrance are cumulative. Defenders' areas of impact. If players look at the vehicle unit cards, they will see that vehicles have different defense dice depending on where they are hit. This is also for artillery units which have, for example, a shield. These have, of course, then different defense dice. These are referred to in the rules as areas of impact. There are 4 different areas: front, flank, rear and above. And okay, to determine the area of impact, trace the line of sight from the attacking unit to the hex containing the target unit. The area of impact is where the line of sight enters the target hex. See illustration. This determines which defense dice the defender will use against the attack. If the line of sight is traced directly alongside a hex site that divides 2 areas of impacts, they use the area with the weakest armor to determine which defense dice is used. From above, area of impact only applies to indirect fire and infantry attacking vehicles in close combat. Then it's important to know the attacker firing status, because this can give, of course, modifications. When conducting ranged fire, the attacking unit will use one of 4 types of fire actions. These are explained in 10, ranged fire. The type chosen by the attacking unit may gain the defending unit an extra defense die. This is applied whether the attacking unit has been activated to fire or is doing reaction fire. If the action is firing, the defending unit gains no extra die. If the action is turret firing, the defending unit will gain a blue die, and so on. You will see this on the ranged fire modification table. Vehicles with a fast action, the one exception to above is the defending unit is a vehicle with a fast action, then it gains an extra die. Defender fired at from ambush will lose the weakest terrain defense bonus die. This is cumulative to other defense die modifications. So let's see the range fire modification table, and therefore you see all the different modificators the defender gets depending on the attacker's status. Then after the attacker status, it's important to know, of course, defender status, when you will lose a die when you are digging in, when you are in a fast action. You will gain a die when you are dug in, when you are in a hide action, in a hidden or ambush status, or when you suppressed and an infantry and artillery unit. Of course, half strengths did not lose any dice. This is only important for if you're an attacker. Then we have special abilities and attributes stated on the unit card. We have experience levels and so on. So we have focused this all on a separate game aid, like for the attacking player in a ranged fire action. So as like for the ranged fire attack dice, we did the same game aid for the modifications to defense dice. Therefore, you as a player, if you follow all these steps from upper left to down and to the right, then you cannot forget any modifier for defense dice. Starting with the defender's inherent defense dice and area of impact. So you have to check the base defense dice stated on a unit card depending on the impact. And then we have the terrain. The terrain gives, of course, defense bonus, which is stated on the terrain chart, and the defense bonus column. Then we have, of course, the topic is the line of sight clear or hindered. Check the terrain chart for defense die receiving for any loss hindrance, and these are cumulative. For indirect fire, of course, this is ignored, so indirect pays no attention to hindered loss, it fires over possible hindrance. So attacking unit fire status, then of course what is the fire status of the attacker. Therefore you can check, of course, the ranged fire modification table, which is on the right, and then you have to take a look. Is the defender fired at from an ambush? Then you will lose a weakest terra defense die. Does the attacker fails his spotting roll if necessary? Then you will get a bonus on the ranged fire modification table. Then your status as a defender: are you digging in or dug in? Are your infantry and artillery and moving fast, or your vehicle, which gains a die when moving fast? Are you suppressed? Are you hidden in a hide action or ambush mode? Then, does your unit have experience? Does your unit has special abilities and attributes? See your unit card. And last but not least, do you have command cards on your hand which give a certain effect for defense? Yeah, now we have it. All the theoretical rules are nothing without our examples. Let us start with a basic example of a ranged fire action. So I have my German rifles here in the light forest, and they want to start a ranged fire at these rifles on the open or clear terrain. So first of all, I have to identify my target, which is now a rifles unit and which is an infantry unit. So I have to check, of course, the range factor for this unit, and therefore I have to count 1, 2, 3 as a range, and therefore I have the range factor 1, 2, 3 for infantry unit, and this is of course a red, a yellow and a blue attack die. A red, a yellow and a blue attack die. Then I check the line of sight. Line of sight is clear because there is nothing in between the start hex and the target hex. So line of sight is clear, nothing to think on. I can check for joint fire. I have no adjacent unactivated unit, so joint fire is not possible. And so I have to mark my unit with a fire marker. That I've done. If necessary, perform a spotting roll, and a spotting roll is not necessary because this rifle's quad is automatically spotted because it's on a clear hex. Then I have checked arc of fire. Infantry has no arc of fire, it has 360-degree arc of fire. There is nothing to think on arc of fire. Unit experience level for the attacker. I am not a veteran and not an elite, I'm just a regular, and the enemy unit is a regular unit, so nothing to declare. I have no hidden marker on my unit, and I'm not marked with a -1 attack die. I'm not an ambush, and now I can check special abilities on my card. I have the rifle grenades, but the rifle grenade, okay, I can do an indirect fire, 1 to 3 hexes. I do not want to do this. I want to have a plain ranged fire here. I have full strength side of the counter, so nothing on attacking unit at half strength, and I do not have a command card. So it's a simple plain ranged fire attack, just rolling these dice for my attack. And as a result I have 1, 2, 3 hit damage point symbols and 1 suppression symbol. Let us now go to the defender. So as we have 3 damage points, 1 suppression as a result. Now the defender is checking. So defender's inherent defense die. So I'm not a vehicle and not an artillery with a shield. I have just plain my defense die around or every time yellow. So I will grab a yellow basic die for my defense. Then terrain. Check terrain defense bonus column for the terrain chart. And we are on a clear terrain here. And a clear terrain states for infantry it's a green die for defense. I will grab my dice. Hindered loss. No, I have a clear loss, so no effect. Attacking unit's fire status. The fire status is firing, so no bonus for me as a defender. I'm not attacked by an ambush. My attacker has no spotting roll. I'm not digging, I'm not dug in, I make no fast action. I'm not suppressed, hidden, hide, ambush, not applicable, so, and no experience. I can check my card for special abilities. I have a rifle grenades which are no matter for this, and I do not have a command card. So I have a simple roll for 2 dice for the defense. And I see I rolled only one suppression symbol, and we learned that these symbols are cancel each other out, starting with a critical hit which cancels everything, then a hit cancels a hit, and a suppression cancels only a suppression. So this suppression is away and cancelled, so I have 3 damage points left from that attack, which forces my 4-step unit to flip once, which are 2 damage now, and a 3rd damage is applied by a damage marker. And now I have only 1 strength point left, and you see the result of this easy example of a ranged fire. Okay, let us do a more complex situation for ranged fire. My 2 rifles, German rifles, want to fire at these rifles 43. Therefore, I intend to do a joint fire to have more effective and more chance to hit them in a hard way. First is always to check the target type, and of course these rifles, we know it's an infantry unit. So the range is for this action, I want to lead the fire with my elite rifle squad here. It is a range of 3 hex now, which gives a red, a yellow and a blue basically for my firing. Then I have to check the line of sight, and the line of sight for my unit is here a hindered line of sight, because I have to cross 2 smoke marked hexes, and I have to take this to account as a defender for the defender role. But I'm able to fire through hindered. So would there a 3rd marker somehow, somewhere, then this line of sight would have been blocked. So I check for the joint fire, and joint fire means if I have an adjacent unit which was not activated, it can support the fire of this unit. A precondition is that the line of sight of the joint of the support unit is not blocked. And here we go, we have 1 single-story building, so the elite unit is also in a single-story building. So we have 1 hindering terrain, and we have a 2nd due to the smoke marker. This hex is not counting because here is a clear, and we are in line with the hex line. So we have 2 hindering, which gives us a hindering malus on that support fire. The support fire unit adds then the strongest dice in the range factor category. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, and on this unit card we have the 4 to 6 range factor now. The strongest die is a green one. So I will grab a green one for this support unit. Now we have a specialty because of the joint fire rule. We have a unit which is marked with a -1 attack die, so the next weakest die color is applied, and the line of sight is hindered, so the next weakest die color is used. This is cumulative, so we have of course a downgrading of the dice color from green to blue. Blue is the weakest, and this is the last one we can take, because otherwise we have 2 degrading factors, -1 hindered loss. If it has been a red die, we would fell down over yellow to green, but now we have the weakest, a blue additional for this attack roll. So then we have to perform a spotting roll, I guess, because spotting is, this is not automatically spotted because the rifles are in a terrain without with a light forest, so it gives a terrain bonus, and we have to see that it doesn't know fast action, delayed action, it's not adjacent, so we have to do a spotting roll, and you see it on the spotting roll table. You are the attacker unit type is infantry, and it is in the arc of fire because infantry has 360 degrees, so it's a basically 2+. But now we have a hindered line of sight, so subtract 1 from the result if there is 1 or more hindering terrain types. So we have 1 or more hindering terrain, so we have to roll a 3+ to be successful with the spotting roll. So let us do the spotting roll first. I have a 4+, so the spotting roll was successful. The arc of fire is nothing to declare here. We have a unit experience level, so all attacking units with experience level gain a blue attack die. In this case I have the leading unit is an elite unit, so I get again a blue die additional for my attack. The defender is another recruit, it's not hidden, no ambush, I have no special abilities on a unit card, I'm not in half strengths, I have no command cards. So this is basically my role, and I will now attack. Okay, here we go. I have 1 critical hit, 3 damage points and 2 blanks to this. And now we figure out the defense dice. So the inherent defense dice are a yellow one because of the rifles. Then we have the terrain. The terrain is a light forest, and the light forest grants a yellow and a green die again. So we collect these dice. Then we have hindered loss, of course, and we will check now for the hindered loss for the leading unit, which is the elite rifles. We have 2 smokes in between, and a smoke gives here for each smoke marker +1 blue die. So we have 1, 2 blue die. I will take these blanks. Then we have the attacking firing status. It is marked with firing. I forgot this, but no impact on the defense dice. We have failed spotting roll. No, we have succeeded the spotting roll. We are not dig in, we are dug in. So dug in gains a green defense die additional because of the dug in position. We are not suppressed. We are not experienced. We have no unit card, no command card. So just roll the defense dice to see what happens. And okay, we have 2 suppression, but they cannot delete any success. We can delete 1 damage point. So at the end we have 1 damage because of the crit and 2 damage points, which leads us to flip this unit, or 2 steps, and a 3rd step, of course, with the damage marker. And then we have the speciality, because this is a critical hit, and a critical hit ends up in triggering a special effect, and therefore we have here our critical hit roll, and in the rules it is a green die for the attacker and a blue for the defender again, and we roll these 2 dice and we see it comes out again a damage point, and we take our game aid, and there a critical hit versus infantry artillery units, a damage point, no damage points applied. The infantry artillery is suppressed, mark it suppressed. If it was suppressed before resolves the critical hit, it immediately performs a fall back. This will eliminate an artillery unit. So this unit is additionally suppressed to this result, and so they are pinned down and are not able to perform any action this game turn. This was again an example. Go to the next. So let us do again example for ranged combat with infantry. And my intention is to show a reaction fire. These US rifles are want to go for the objective here in the light forest. So you have, of course, 2-point movement allowance, so it's not enough to go there. So I need a 3rd one to enter this light forest. So they call out a fast action. And then they are start moving 1 and moving 2, and the German player decides now here to make a reaction fire to prevent them moving onto that objective. And therefore the German player calls out for reaction fire, and he wants to react with his machine gun 42 on that rifle units. So our process is now stopped for moving, and reaction fire takes place. So now the German has of course to identify the target. I will skip all the details now because you can use your checklist, your ranged fire aid. So the target is infantry. We have a range of 4. 4 says it is in a range factor 1 to 5, which gives 2 red, a yellow and a blue as a basic attack pool. And now we have to check, of course, the line of sight. The line of sight is hindered by this smoke. So we have one hindering. We will keep it for the defender. I cannot do joint fire. I'm marked with firing. I do not need a spotting roll because this unit is moving fast. Arc of impact is okay. I have no experience. I have no marker up. But I have a specialty on my unit. I have rapid fire. Rapid fire gives me a reroll of 1 attack die. Player's choice. Reroll must be used. So I can reroll 1 of my attack dice. I'm not half strength. I have no command card. So I just roll my attack dice. And I'm allowed to reroll 1. I take this blank to reroll. And again I have here a suppression. Okay. This yellow inherent defense die. He is on a clear terrain because we have learned the fortification trench. While infantry is moving, it does not count because infantry ends their movement in that trench. So for reaction fires, they are moving still on a clear terrain. This is important, and clear terrain grants a green die for defense. We have through the hindering line of sight, we have a blue one, and because of moving fast, this infantry loses the weakest defense die, so it loses the blue one. So only 2 are left to try to get rid of such result. Now we are really lucky, so we can beat out this double success. We have a crit left and a hit, so damage. So a crit can delete this damage point, and this damage point can delete suppression. So this is also cancelled. But one suppression stays, leaving that unit suppressed but not damaged on the ground, and it ends its movement now inside the trench. So luck inside the unlucky moment. They are not have no losses, but they are suppressed and not able to move into this objective. Okay, let us do an example for infantry move and fire action. Therefore I prepared this situation. These airborne rifles want to approach the heavy machine gun, which is currently firing on the rifles inside the trench, and suppress them. I activate them with a move and fire status marker, and now I can move up to my movement allowance halved. The movement allowance is 2, so I halve it to 1, so I can move up 1 hex, and then I can start firing on this heavy machine gun. For the process, this is of course an infantry target, and I have a range of 1, 2, 3, which brings me a red, 2 yellow and 1 blue for the attack. 2 yellow and 1 blue. I have to check, of course, line of sight is clear. Joint fire is not necessary, not able to do it. I mark it with the right marker. Spotting in this case is not necessary because this is a firing unit, so it's automatically spotted. Arc of fire does not take something. I have no experience. My enemy has no experience. I'm not marked with any markers. I have no special abilities which are dealing with this, so I have just a plain roll for the attack. Okay, I have 5, 6 damage points and 1 suppression. The machine gun has an inherent defense die of yellow, and it is in a single story building, which gives yellow, yellow, blue. and we have line of sight is not a hindering loss. Unit firing status is of course move and fire, and that gives the defender of course a green 1 additional as a modification, and therefore nothing more to do here. Just roll, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 damage points, 1 crit and 1 suppression. So I can of course delete one of these. This one deletes 2 damages. This one deletes this damage, and this one deletes the suppression. So 1 damage stays. As this is a 2-step unit, we have to flip it once, and so it's a little bit weaker with losses, and this was my approach doing a move and fire action. So let us now start with artillery units versus vehicles, and so I intend to make some examples. First of all, I want to start firing with my 75 AEG gun to the Sherman tank, which is approaching to this village. And of course my target type is now a vehicle type, so I have to use the above range scale. I have a range of 1, 2, 3, 4, so which brings me into the 1 to 5 range, which is red, red and yellow as a basic attack dice. Then I have to check my line of sight, and my line of sight says okay, it is a clear, 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 so nothing in between the line of sight. I have no joint fire possibility. I will mark my unit with firing now. I do not need a spotting roll because it is on a clear terrain. I have no experience, no certain marker, I have no special ability, so just again a plain roll. And okay, I have 2 critical hits, 3 damage points. Now, as a defender, I have to check what is the inherent defense bonus. Vehicle has 4 sides, of course, 4 areas, and you see here this would be frontal hex. Now we are on the line to flank, so we take the weakest, so this is a flank shot. So we have to take the flank defense die red, green and blue. So we do not have any modifiers here in this case, so it's just again a blank roll to defend. And you see here we have only cancelled 1 hit, so it got 4 damage, which eliminates this Sherman tank. So another example, now my brand new Sherman tank wants to move and fire to this position of the 75mm. So therefore my German tank identifies this as artillery unit, and of course I want to go forward with move and fire. I can halve and round up my movement allowance, so which is 3 divided by 2 is 1.5, rounded up is 2, so I have 2 movement allowance to move forward to the objective. And I decided to move 1 and 2. German player is not reacting because it won't decover his position, so it moves up here with aligning the frontal up here, which is possible, and then to fire. But I decide to drive straight forward and do a turret fire because I want to show this how this works. And even if we make turret fire, we do not mark it with turret fire in that case, then move and fire stays persistent on the unit, because it is important for the modifier. But the tank can of course do a turret fire here. So now the tank is moving forward. We have a range factor of 3. We have a yellow, a red, red and a blue for the base attack. We have a line of sight which is clear to that position. So we have to do a spotting roll, because this is in a terrain defense, in a good cover here, and has not fired. And we have to take the table. We are a tank vehicle unit, and we are it's not in the arc of fire because we make turret fire. It is in terrains. We need a 5+ to spot this gun, and you see we have a 3+, so no success for the spotting roll. We are marked with move and fire. We have no card, no ability to bring more on, so it's a plain roll with a basic dice, and for this we have 4 hits. Now we go to the defender. The defender has an inherent die of, we check it, so we hit the frontal arc, which is a unit with a shield, so with a red in the front, so we have a red defense die basically. Then we have the terrain. Terrain is an olive grove and a sand back position, and you see the sand back position, it gives artillery unit from the front 2 yellow. So the olive grove is not counting as a terrain, so the sandbag position has priority. And the loss is clear, and the attacker is doing a turret fire, but a move and fire is priority. So you have here attacker spotting roll failed. It's an attacker status is move and fire, and it's a tank unit, so a red 1-2 for the defense of this position. And then we have, I see no other modificator, and then we roll the dice, and we see, of course, we delete these 2 for sure, so no harm to our 75mm. So for finalizing this chapter ranged fire, it's important to talk about ranged fire on vehicles transporting units. When firing on vehicles transporting units, those units will either be loaded inside or riding on top. Those riding on top are referred as tank riders, 911L1. Ranged fire on a vehicle will normally only affect the vehicle itself. There are 2 possible exceptions to this. Firstly, when armored vehicles are carrying tank riders, and secondly, when the vehicle itself is eliminated, takes a critical hit. Vehicles with tank riders. Tank riders move more quickly than infantry on foot, but are very vulnerable if shot at. If a player wishes to fire at an armored vehicle with tank riders, they have a choice. They may either target the tank riders or the vehicle. If they target the tank riders, the attack is conducted using the infantry artillery row on the attacker's unit card. However, the only defense dice the tank riders receive are the ones stated on the unit card. They don't receive any additional defense dice for terrain. Any reductions in the attacker's dice are still applied. The armored vehicle is not affected by this attack. If the tank riders receive any uncancelled critical hits, damage points or suppressions, they must do an emergency disembark. If they target the armored vehicle, follows the normal combat procedure for ranged fire. However, if the armored vehicle is eliminated or receives a critical hit during the ranged fire, refer to 10.10.2. Eliminated critical hits on vehicle transporting units. This effect applies to all units being transported by vehicles, whether they are tank riders, infantry or artillery. If the transporting vehicle receives a critical hit during the original ranged fire, not during 10.7.6, or is destroyed, then applies this special effect to the passengers. Any transported infantry and/or artillery unit is flipped to its half-strength side or eliminated if already half-strength, Any surviving unit must perform an emergency disembark. Emergency disembark. Passengers must do an emergency disembark if the tank riders are attacked and receive any uncancelled critical hits, damage points or suppressions. A transporting vehicle is immobilized, takes a critical hit, damage point or is suppressed. They must immediately be placed on an empty adjacent hex, 1 per hex, observing the stacking limit if more than one unit is being transported. If for any reason they cannot do an emergency disembark, they are eliminated. When doing an emergency disembark, the unit normally receives a fast action status marker. There are 2 exceptions. Firstly, if it's artillery with a slow attribute and or a unit exciting into what it would threat as harsh terrain, then it receives a delayed action. Secondly, if it's a tank riders that are suppressed, then that unit becomes to be marked as suppressed rather than with any move action status marker. Emergency disembarks can attract reaction fire. Emergency disembark count as a free action. So this is the last part of the ranged fire, and I will show an example for this, of course. So in that case, this Sherman with tank riders rifles is approaching fast on the road to that village, and my German machine gun commander has decided to aim at these tank riders. Therefore, my machine gun is checking the target type, and I want to decide to fire at the tank riders, which are infantry, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 range, which gives 2 red, a yellow and a blue attack die. So I check for other modifications. Line of sight is in that case hindered by this single store building, and this gives a yellow for the defender as a modificator. I mark it here. I have area of impact is okay. I have no experience. I'm not marked with any thing, so I have just my plain roll to that attack, and I can re-roll once. 1 die, okay, and I have 5 hits and 1 suppression. The tank riders itself have only the inherent bonus for defense because they are tank riding and no cover so far. Even the fast moving tank gives no advantage for them, so really unlucky guys driving into that machine gun here. So we can check for the defense, and we have nothing to but the hindering yellow die we get, and it's firing and the tank is moving fast, but no more modification, so just a roll, and we see we have 3 damage points which cancel out this, and it ends in 2 damage points and 1 suppression. And for the rifles, this is the signal to jump off the tank, so they got 2 hits, which is flipping them to half strength, and then they must do an emergency disembark, and the US player decides to move them into this forest, and we have 1 suppression symbol which leaves them suppressed down on the ground. That's the example for tank riders firing on with a machine gun. Okay, second situation, tank riders again on a Sherman tank which is moving fast into this village. The German player decides to activate his 75 AG to fire on the tank, doesn't matter if he has tank riders on it. So therefore I check again the target type is a vehicle, and I have to check the range 1, 2, 3, 4, which brings me in 2 red and a yellow die. And modifications, I have a clear line of sight, and I have no spotting roll, so it's on a clear road, no spotting roll, no experience, no marker, no command code, so I have just a plain roll to set attack roll. Okay, the enemy tank impact is front, so we have 2 red and a blue for defense, and we get 1 modification because this is now a fast moving vehicle, gets a blue die additional, but that's it for all the modifications. And we roll and we can eliminate this one, we can eliminate this one, but not the crit. So 1 hit is still there, we mark that 1 hit, and of course it is a critical hit. This brings our rifles here to jump down, therefore they got half strength because of the impact of the grenades and shrapnels and so on, and jump down with fast action to be with emergency disembark. And the tank got of course a critical hit as a result, so we have to roll a green and a blue on that the critical hits versus vehicle units chapter. So defender blue, attacker green, and we have nothing because these are cancelling out. So the tank is able to proceed his movement to this, of course, reaction and move forward, but the infantry was jumping off and goes heads down. Now we did all the rules for ranged fire, and I hope it's more clear now using the examples to align your thoughts and to try out how this plays out. Please take always in mind, use the player aids as a kind of checklist to do not forget any modifiers. And you will see, if you do a lot of ranged fire actions, you will get a routine and it will get automatic what kind of modifiers do I think of, and it is really a quick flow then in the game. So have fun with this chapter, and next part will be close combat.